Welcome, Midlothian, to another Minute with the Mayor. I'm Tim. I'm here with Justin Kaufman, the mayor of Midlothian, Texas. Justin, how have you been doing?
Doing really well. Tim, thanks for having me once again. The holidays were festive and a lot went on, but glad to be back in the swing of things. And we survived our first ice storm of 2024.
Oh, yeah. Luckily, no big news there. So far, there haven't been huge brownouts or blackouts or rolling anything, and people have been able to stay warm and safe in their homes.
Yeah.
Minimal traffic disruption in Midlothian, at least, thankfully. Over the holidays, we got a new Christmas tree.
We did.
Yeah, this is the first time we got to see that Christmas tree as a city. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You did a great job lighting it, by the way.
Well,
Congratulations.
I didn't do anything except say count down from 100, I think. We counted down from 10 and then lit it up, and it was fun.
Yeah, Pastor Mac was there. He spoke briefly on it.
It is one of my favorite events in the community because it's so concise and so intentional, and everybody's so excited to welcome in the holidays. So it's brief. It's a great event. It's usually the first Friday or so in December, and then the day before the parade, and then of course the parade follows that. So fantastic events.
Yeah, the parade was great. I love the small town feel of the parades that we have here in Midlothian.
It was a great one. It was a long line, and it went all the way down 14th Street, and it was just from the community park all the way down to the conference center, and I don't know, hundreds of floats. It was a ton of floats.
There was a bunch. I sat out there in the middle of the street and watched everybody, and it was a fairly long parade and really enjoyable.
And another cool thing was it was actually on my birthday, and so I didn't broadcast it.
It was nice to have a parade for you on your birthday.
Well, people are yelling in the crowd, yelling "Happy Birthday" to me, and it was just cool. It's one of those memories that I'll never forget. So
that's fantastic.
Thank you, community of Midlothian, for making my birthday great.
I do love this town.
Yeah.
So we have been on break for a little bit. The holidays. You and I both have been running around doing different things, but not connecting here and keeping everyone up to date on what's going on.
Contrary to popular belief, we both have full-time jobs and families and everything else to keep us busy. Extracurriculars. So.
Not just one. I think both of us suffer from having multiple jobs.
Yes.
Multiple jobs. Yeah, and so I'm pretty excited to get back in the swing of things. It's a great time to be talking because the last city council meeting, the one that has happened since the new year, had a pretty big thing go on, and I'm sure that it is of great interest to the community.
Absolutely.
So why don't you just talk a little bit about it?
Of course, there's a lot of agenda items to discuss, but the one that everybody cares about is on the front page of both of our papers this week.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the development that's going on down there across of Main Street from Walmart, which is the new Weber development, which will include a Lowe's, a new Chick-fil-A, and a whole bunch of retail sites. That was definitely the point of lengthy discussion, point of contention, I guess, in some ways, and then ultimately, by a 5-2 vote, that development did pass.
A lot of people don't know who Weber is, and if you don't live in Midlothian, you may not ever have any reason to know, but Weber is the same developer that did the Kroger Shopping Center.
He did.
And one benefit that I've seen from that is that developer became very familiar with our community. He interacted with people from the community. He took meetings with people, listened to their concerns, and incorporated a lot of that into the Kroger Shopping Center back then. But, a lot of it was underway before he really started interfacing. Now he's doing another even bigger shopping center, but he has all those things that he knows Midlothian wants worked into the shopping center already.
Yeah.
And that was really impressive to me. One of our mutual friends used the phrase, we can't find a better partner to do this. And I know a lot of people would prefer that Midlothian remain a sleepy town of 1,200 people. Unfortunately, that ship has sailed, and there's no way to get that back. And at this point, I think most people who understand growth in community will understand that people are going to want to build on their own properties, so that property out there, it's a big empty field. It's not benefiting the community the way it is.
Or the landowner, for that matter.
It's not benefiting the landowner. It's not benefiting the community. And for a developer to come in and say, hey, I already know that a Chick-fil-A in Midlothian needs a really long drive-through,
right,
and to put that in place, and to know that, being on the outskirts of the Metroplex, we tend to drive, our full-size SUVs and pickup trucks. And so he's putting mostly 10-foot wide spaces in there. Something I wish we'd do downtown. Hint, hint. But it was really refreshing to go to that meeting and see him speaking with knowledge about what Midlothian looks for in a partner, in a development partner, bringing new developments in. So the anchor store is Lowe's, okay, and there's a Chick-fil-A confirmed. Were there any other stores confirmed so far?
The only ones that he has a letter of intent signed on, to my understanding, is a Chick-fil-A and a Lowe's. As a reminder to everyone watching, the council doesn't dictate user, they dictate use. And so we can say yes or no to a to a restaurant with a drive-through. We can say yes or no to a restaurant with a drive-through. We can't say yes or no to a Chick-fil-A, if that makes sense. And so council dictates, yes, this piece of property can be utilized for restaurant, retail, commercial type uses. We can't say, yes, we want a Target, Burlington Coat Factory, or all these different users. We can dictate use because that's free market driven.
So that's interesting, because from what I'm to understand from social media, there is some sort of shadow council that determines exactly what stores come and don't come to Midlothian.
Yeah, if you're watching this and you're a member of the shadow council, please invite me, because I would like to participate.
I've got a list of things I'd like to see Midlothian.
And so do I. But the reality is we don't have influence into that, because if you were an investor in some sort of retailer, it would be immoral, unethical for me to say, you know what, Tim, I don't like that version of hamburger that you're going to be selling, so I'm going to say no. It's not up to me to dictate what the free market does and where or how you place your investment. It is up to the council to say, yes, that's a good area for a restaurant that has a drive-through, or not. As simple as that. And so, because users can change, but the use stays the same.
Right. So what you're saying is we live in America and people are free to risk their own money to try to profit.
Exactly.
All right, cool.
So, but in this development, things that have been rumored, not confirmed, but rumored, is a Dutch Bros coffee. Rumored is a Chick-fil-A is confirmed. Chipotle has been rumored to be coming there. Several different retailers like Kohl's and some other places like that. More of a retail environment. Several sit-down restaurants that he's pursuing. And so it's quite a large, extensive development. I heard our economic development director say that this development could represent about 20% of our sales tax base.
I want to stop you right there and have you repeat that.
Yeah, up to 20% of the sales tax dollars that are spent in Midlothian could take place at this retail location. And why that matters is because sales tax can be utilized to ultimately offset property tax. And so
that is huge.
There's a real strategy there.
Yeah, that is kind of Midlothian citizens getting their cake and eating it too, right? I mean, this council has been very focused on minimizing the tax burden to the citizen. Right. You have, during your tenure on the council, not you personally, but you have contributed to passing a senior citizens exemption, disabled citizen exemption, and most recently a homeowner exemption.
Homestead exemption.
Homestead exemption.
Which will be 20% next year.
That's huge. That is huge.
Yeah.
So,
and not to mention lowering the tax rate by almost 6 cents. The overall
and
tax
lowering
rate.
the tax rate, absolutely. And so being able to collect all this sales tax takes the pressure off of, as you guys like to say, takes pressure off the rooftops, right? The people living in the town will experience less of a tax burden than they otherwise would to get the same benefits from the community.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
So that, I mean, that sounds like a win-win, and we get another Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, and some probably some needed retailers, locally. I know that personally, my wife is having me repaint the entire inside of our house. Not fun. Don't recommend it. But I've been driving back and forth to Home Depot to buy paint. And so you'll have the opportunity. Obviously, there's some local retailers here that sell it. The particular color and brand that she wanted was at Home Depot, so that's where we went. But I think it'll give you more options, more choices as we get a large box hardware store and another Chick-fil-A, so you don't have to wait in line quite as long if you do so, and a whole lot of other options where you can go and buy yourself a nice new sweater or whatever you want to buy.
Well, I hope that you are done painting your wife's walls before the Lowe's opens.
Wouldn't count on it. Yeah. So, but it is an important note to recognize retail dollars spent locally equate to sales tax dollars, which get pumped back into the community, which ultimately can lead to, and I believe the vision of this council is to lead toward that offsetting the tax rate that you and I and the rooftops pay in the community. So it's very important. Shop local, and when you have, in my opinion, you have more options to do so locally. It drives business, and so I think it benefits all. All, what is the old saying? Rising waters float all ships. Yeah, something like that.
Well, I agree. This can be a really great benefit to the community in many ways, and it is sales tax. And as you know, one of the things that sales tax funds in this city is our A and B boards, our development boards. Now, the Economic Development Board, or the A board, that money is turned back into efforts to develop our economy, bring in, the Googles of Midlothian, where, we would have this empty field out in Railport. Now we have literally $1 billion facility paying all sorts of taxes. They did get a small city tax abatement, but they've been paying school taxes and county taxes since the beginning on $1 billion property.
And the tax abatement that was given by the city will expire in like 4 years.
Right.
And so then into perpetuity, you are now taxing on $1 billion investment. And it's
so long as we keep using computers.
Pretty much, yeah. So it's really, in my opinion, and others that are watching might disagree, but tax abatements and these tools are playing chess, not checkers. And you're playing for the long term for the residents that are going to be here in 4 years that will experience that influx of taxable value to the city could and should lead toward offsetting the taxable value on your home.
Right, and like any tool, it needs to be used properly. And in the case of the new Weber development, where Lowe's is being anchored, they did not ask for any abatements whatsoever, and it was approved with no abatements.
No abatements, which by comparison, the Kroger development received a tax abatement. And so a portion of the sales tax dollars from the Kroger development went back to the developer himself. And so with this one, rising tides carry all ships. With this one, because that one was so successful, this one now we can say no sales tax abatement here. There was a grant given to help build the main thoroughfare, the roadway through that development, but that was a part of our city's thoroughfare plan anyway.
Well, that grant is through the A board, right?
It is, yeah. So we basically got a very key road that is on our plan anyway for a discount, because now the developer is going to pay half of it and we're going to pay the other half. And so it's strategies like that ultimately save the taxpayer dollars. They hear words like abatement or grants or different things like that, I get the negative connotation of them. But when these tools are used in a correct way, strategically, it can alleviate costs on us in the long term.
Well, and we all just want a really nice place to live in the end.
Yeah.
So, this developer has put a lot of effort into architecture and making the shopping center feel more like a Main Street city block.
That's a great point, because This is a long process, and you mentioned earlier, this developer was very intentional about having lots of conversations with a large variance of different types of people. And of course, they came to council. We had a workshop with them and P&Z, had lots of discussions about architecture and what these facilities might look like if they were approved. Ultimately, they brought forth a project that was very high quality, very nice, but the feedback they got from the council in meetings was this is great, but this is very modern and it doesn't represent our downtown corridor. Obviously, Main Street drives straight into downtown. And so they took that feedback, they redeveloped it, they shaped it to look differently. And now we've got buildings that they're going to be building that look much more dated, in my opinion, which I think will be a better feed into our downtown corridor. It's sort of the gateway into our downtown. So these buildings look a little older, it's a little older style architecture, very clean lines, mismatched depths and things like that will give them sort of, not perfectly, but more of a similar look to what you might experience along 8th Street right there in downtown, where buildings almost look, although they're connected, they look different.
Right.
And so more of that style look, even with the Lowe's facility, the nicer the town is, in my opinion, what I've observed, the nicer the city is, the more simple the buildings look when it comes to these big box retailers. Like if you go into South Lake or some of these higher end areas, if you go to a Lowe's there, it's going to have almost like a bland look, like the brick, clean lines, the white Lowe's sign, and it's a higher quality architectural look. And so Lowe's brought that product to us and said, you know what, we recognize who you are as a community. Here's our traditional store with the blue awnings and the blue signs and all that. It's simple. They simplified it for us, and they make it, in my opinion, it's a higher quality look, and it's not going to look like every Lowe's that you drive past when you come to Midlothian.
Right. Jumping back to the sales tax, so the A board is the economic development, and you can see how, they work to bring businesses into town, and the grants can be used for things like building roads and that sort of thing. The other board, B board, is the community development. Now, whereas the economic development sounds very like grown up and, upright and, let's not bother with that because that makes my brain hurt. The B board is the fun one.
Yeah.
Some of their projects in the past, they are the reason we have a dog park.
Sure.
They contributed the baseball fields to Community Park on 14th.
Definitely the turf elements of them and making them better for sure.
Right. That was a multi-million-dollar grant to do that as well. And
they doubled the size of the splash pad. The splash pad was supposed to be much smaller, but they came in and threw some money at it and made it much larger. So they provide things like our concerts in the park. Mm-hmm. They help to fund the amphitheater that's down there. These sorts of things that impact quality of life, to make Midlothian a great place to live, that help to build community. And I equate it to, it's the icing on the cake. Like they put finishing touches to make things better. And so, a portion of the sales tax dollars go toward that. And so those funds can also be utilized on projects that would offset taxes as well, so it doesn't have to come out of a general fund. They can do roadway projects, or they can do economic development projects as well. They actually have a little more latitude than the Economic Development Board does.
Right, which is why a lot of their projects are more overt and visible to the community.
Yeah. So it is a great board that has great impact in our community. Again, reinforces the need to shop local, not only to support our local, industry and our local commercial and our local, investors that have invested heavily into our community, our neighbors even that are doing business and doing life here. Not only to support them, but also it supports the community at large. When I choose to do my grocery shopping at Kroger or Aldi or Brookshire's versus driving to Waxahachie to go to H-E-B or one of their stores or Tom Thumb that they've got coming, it benefits my community. So if you love Midlothian, shop in Midlothian, eat in Midlothian, stay in Midlothian. It's not possible to do it always, but sometimes you want to go to Texas Roadhouse, which we don't have. I get it. But when you do that, those dollars go to Mansfield, which makes Mansfield better. When you do that in Midlothian, it goes to making Midlothian better.
So, what else happened that people missed from the last city council meeting?
Some of the other things that we did is we recognized Dr. Martin Luther King Day, did a proclamation for that. Our city parks received a Park Society Excellence Award in programming, which is always fun to acknowledge what they're doing.
Congratulations, Heather and her team.
Yeah, and Pat Farrell with his board, leading the board as well. We have a great parks department and fantastic staff and board that help with that.
Shout out to Pat.
Yeah, Pat will definitely watch this. The other thing, there's a group home on 9th Street, which if you don't know what a group home this is it's a nursing care facility for elderly. It's assisted living, in other words. Our joint airport agreement that we have with the city of Waxahachie has been recently updated, and our city council voted 4-3 to approve the new joint agreement, which will get that airport board up and operational as soon as possible. We're received through the police department for some police officers and some different things that we approved.
Well, Justin, I sure appreciate you spending time with me, talking to the citizens of Midlothian and explaining what goes on. I won't say behind closed doors because this is all done in the public and it's
very public.
It's recorded and posted on the city website. But also, I want to mention that, as you know, today marks the first day that the filing is open for city council. Places 5 and 6 are coming up for election in May, and you have until February 16th to throw your hat in the ring if you'd like to run for city council. If there's some thing that you'd like the city to be doing differently, this is certainly a way for you to have more influence and weight to what you'd personally like. But it is a great responsibility to represent our citizens. I know that you have been working on an initiative to build community. These videos are part of that, and to build a culture of teamwork within the city government, the city council, the different boards. Can you spend just a second expanding on your vision there?
We as city council members are elected to represent our community. Represent our community to the city staff, but also represent the city staff, and when I say city staff, I mean direction back to the community, so it goes both ways. And so we are truly representatives of the 40,000 Midlothian citizens, and that looks like something. That looks like what we say and how we say it, how we act, how we respond, how we interact with one another. It's all very important. It creates a healthy culture in our community. And so I desire to represent well, and I desire for my team, the council, the people of Midlothian elect, to represent those same initiatives. And policy matters. Debate and discussion on policy is important. That's not what I'm saying. We can have debate. We can discuss these things. We can have 4-3 votes, 5-2 votes. Perfectly fine. In fact, encouraged.
There are lots of civil discussions to be had.
Absolutely. What we can't have is dramatics and toxicity. And so what I'm after is to build a culture of healthy representation within the city of Midlothian. It should be an organization that you watching this video or others or your neighbors want to serve in, I want to be a part of that. I want to volunteer for that. I want to run for council. That's an organization that I'm drawn to. And we can do that. We can establish that by being above the fray, being above reproach, and honoring one another in our disagreement. And so that's the initiative I've got going. So join me in that, Midlothian, and we all can be the change that we want to see, and we can impact how we communicate with one another to represent well. And I can promise you I'll do all that I can do if you'll do all you can do.
Well, thanks again, Justin. I know I enjoy great civil discussions, and I think both sides wind up learning things when information is passed back and forth. Even if you don't agree in the end, that's okay. But everybody kind of comes out ahead.
I think so. And
with
I've
good
been
discussion.
wrong before, right? I'm much more likely
I remember that one time.
I'm much more likely for you to prove to me that you're wrong, that I'm wrong, if you do it in a civil way. But
Right.
if you come at me aggressive, then or with a bad representation or bad culture, I'm probably not going to be receptive of it. And so how we approach situations matter. So that's kind of
Well, someone that I admire quite a bit recently told me that as an elected official, you have an obligation to represent the community, but you don't have an obligation to give all of them all of your time.
sure.
So I know you're very generous with your time, but I can imagine that the willingness to do that for someone who is merely making your life difficult and not really engaging in a constructive way,
Yeah, we can change that. It's there's a silent majority in our community that they're not there at every city council meeting. They're generally happy. Things are going well. They get clean water when they turn on their faucets. Their toilets flush when they flush them. They get police service if they ever need it. God forbid.
I see those people at the free concerts.
Yeah, and so those people aren't out. They're not out being very aggressive whenever an issue or an agenda item comes up. So just if you are very passionate about an issue, I strongly encourage you to talk about it, to have conversations about it with your elected officials. Also understand that we're a community of 40,000, and we have, as elected officials, have a duty to represent all 40,000. So your idea, your passions may equate to, yes, this is good for all, or yes, this is good for the majority. But also it might be a niche issue that I hear you, sympathize with you, but also there's still 40,000 out there. And so we have to rule accordingly.
And all 7 of you on the city council, I can say, have made great efforts to be available. You've published your direct phone numbers on the city website, all sorts of things. And so you really are walking that walk and not just talking the talk about being available to the citizens that you represent. And I appreciate that. I know other people do too.
Council's very, very open, very honest, very transparent. If you have questions for me, you can comment on this video below, or you can email me at justin.kaufman@midlothian.tx.us.
And with that, thank you once again, Midlothian. Stay classy.